Good morning, everyone. This is a song by Eddie Watkins Jr. If you don't know who he is, he's part of the Motown sound, and he was a bass player that was on a lot of those Motown recordings. And he is a New Thought artist, so you may have heard this before. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Again, that same part. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. One more time, but we are. We are the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. One more time, that. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up.
I am Reverend Doris Hoskins, and I am fresh from Unity Village. That's me in the Fillmore Chapel wearing, I just took it off on my coat, that name badge, because I am chair of the board of Unity Worldwide Ministries. And so I have been running in as many directions as it's possible to run in the last week. And I capped that off by coming into town and taking my granddaughter to see To Kill a Mockingbird last night. So you'll hear more about that later, but right now, I have some work for you to help me with. So, at Unity on the Avenue, we are what? Unapologetically inclusive. Now, what might that mean? So, it could mean, like my granddaughter, you are gender fluid. It could mean that you grew up on a farm in Ohio, or it could mean that you grew up in an urban environment in public housing. It could mean that you grew up in a yacht club, or it could mean that you grew up in a gun club, or it could mean what?
Could mean that you love and accept everybody, no matter where you come from.
Could mean that. What else could it mean?
Could mean you didn't really grow up.
I have met those people. No. What else could it mean?
You grew up in another country.
Could mean you grew up in another country. Could mean that you are a fan. Could mean that you were, say that word. Or it could mean that you grew up as your parents were part of the Klan. Suddenly, we have to have a bigger perspective than you are welcome no matter what color your skin is. Now, is that true? Absolutely yes. Is it true that you are welcome no matter what your preferences are? Absolutely true. But it also means that if you grew up on a ranch in Wyoming, you're welcome here. If you grew up in another country, you are welcome here. That's what unity is. We are unapologetically inclusive, and we've been saying radically inclusive, but I really like the unapologetically. Because my experience is occasionally someone gets offended because they're left out of the litany. And we aren't going to do that anymore. You need to come prepared with two opposites that you know are inclusive here. So we are going to expand our vision of what unapologetically inclusive means. Could mean you grew up a Muslim. Could mean you grew up a Taoist. Could mean that you grew up Catholic. Could mean you grew up Southern Baptist. Do you see what I mean? We have a lot of close to polar opposites. And yet in unity, and in Unity on the Avenue, you're included here. And we will learn, as Dr. King says, to become a beloved community. I have news for you. Every single detail we may never agree on, but we allow the space for you to believe and be whoever you are. All right, I'll go back up front. Let's see, announcements. All right, Colorado Feeding Kids. We pack weekend lunches, can run all week for families that contain, there's one, turn around, look at Scott, he found it. So that's what we pack, and it's got two like casserole kinds of things in there. 3, oh, get it right, Doris, 3, and it's got oatmeal and snacks. And the point is that fits in a child's backpack, and they can take it home with them after school so that they are fed for the weekend. So on Monday night at 7 o'clock, right? 6 o'clock. 6 to 8, join us in packing Colorado Feeding Kids boxes. Karen Drucker, we all love Karen Drucker. We sang an awful lot of her songs. I know you don't necessarily look at who a song is by, but a lot of the songs we sing are by Karen. She lives out in Marin County in California. At least she did the last I knew. Anyway, she's going to be at Sunrise Ranch in Colorado, which is a wonderful organization run by the Emissaries of Light. And she's running a divine feminine energy retreat. So this is one that if you think you want to do it in September, whenever Ken tells us that the tickets are available online, you might want to do that. So, let's go to our statement of faith before it's time to go home. And that's all that we've done. So please join me. There is one power and one presence in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. Now we could have a word beside God in there, but we won't talk about that just yet. And when our beloved prayer chaplain, Opal, comes up here, she will lead us in opening prayer.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of If God is in this place, I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Good morning. And we can definitely feel the presence of God in this place this morning. And I want to welcome again everyone. And as we relax, I would like for you to just feel this prayer. I chose today a prayer. It says it's a prayer for peace and calm. And as we go into our busy week, let us feel this prayer. It says, may today there be peace within. May you trust your highest power, that you are exactly where you are meant to be. May you not forget the infinite possibilities that are born out of faith. For faith keeps you strong and confident. Faith is an inner knowing that arises from your connection to the divine mind. It allows you to move beyond the limitation of your fears. God in you, as you, therefore it is you. Christ in you, your hope of glory. You are well, you are strong in spirit, mind, and body. Right here and right now, you walk in the light of a thanksgiving consciousness, a blessing of gratitude. All you see and say and do, you walk in faith. Continue to walk in faith this week as you go forth. And so it is. Amen.
What some of you might know, or might not, is that I have a lot of experience with an a cappella group out of Boulder. It's where I sang, or who I sang in Carnegie Hall with. And so I decided to do one a cappella today. Just got a little shaker to help us out. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
So in my excitement, I failed. I failed to introduce Mei Lin, one of our gifted musicians that blesses us with many different songs and has actually been very involved in this center before I got here. So thank you. One of the wonderful things about being me is that I get to apologize a lot. And I honestly mean that. You know, there was a time when ministers not only stood up here, but kind of stood on a platform like we were perfect. You don't have to be around me very long to discover that I'm not perfect, which is fine. And the trick to not being perfect is don't pretend. Be your authentic self. Whoever you are is absolutely perfect the way you are. You chose to come into this world wearing this particular earth suit so that you could bless the world with your particular gifts. And trying to be somebody else doesn't work. But being you, you are so good at that. So I get struck from time to time with different things. And one of the things I was struck with a couple of weeks ago before I turned in this talk title and blurb and all of that was with the word non-duality. Now, when I say non-duality, how many of you know what I'm talking about? She's right, but how many of you knew that? Yeah, see, most of us, that's not a word that we use a lot. It's not a word that we relate to. Now, in Unity, we talk about oneness a fair amount. If we came from the Catholic tradition, we would have heard the words dual and non-dual more often. And I read Matthew Fox. For those of you who don't know Matthew Fox, he was a Catholic priest for many years who was kicked out of the Catholic Church because of what he was teaching about oneness and inclusivity. And his major book is called Creation Spirituality. If I would have been totally focused on this talk all week, I would have shown you a picture of me with Matthew Fox at Unity Village a few years ago. So he is a fascinating gentleman. And every morning I read the daily meditation that he sends out. And he started talking about non-duality and duality. And I thought, we teach this all the time, and yet we don't know those words. And so partially from my own illumination to get it a little more seated with me, and partially for you so that you have heard that, we're going to talk about duality and non-duality, which translates as oneness and separation. So the philosophy of non-duality says there's just one eternal spirit in existence, and everything in the universe is an inseparable part of it. Non-duality is derived from a Sanskrit word, Advaita, which probably is not pronounced properly, meaning not two, non-separation, or oneness. And when I read those words, it hit me in a way that that teaching had not hit me before. To think that there is just one eternal spirit, one eternal consciousness. Think of what we just said in terms of our foundation statement. There's only one power and one presence in the universe and in my life, God the good omnipotent. That is not duality. That is non-duality. Wait a minute, did I do that right? Oneness. Okay, so we're going to talk about that this morning for a while. So then from another place, because that's how it works, I got things about Dr. Martin Luther King, because we just had his birthday and we're in the season for nonviolence, which is a new thought celebration that's begun with the death of Gandhi and ends on April 4th when King was shot. So for that time in between, we're in a spirit of nonviolence. And when I read that, I saw that Martin Luther King said that dualism is a strange and unbiblical way of looking at ourselves and the world. So it's me and, rather than it's us. We talk about that concept all the time, but not in those terms. And so then I went searching. I used to be a librarian, so sometimes my search is what's important for me. And King says that when religion succumbs to fear when it separates matter and spirit and body and soul. So we aren't separate. We are one. Every bit of your life is sacred and holy. Every bit. Even the parts that maybe when you were little they taught you weren't. Those parts too. So we are male, female, we are sexual beings, we are people who love food and drink. All of that is sacred. It's not like you come to church on Sunday morning to be sacred. We come to church to connect with other like-minded people to support ourselves in this journey. Because it feels like duality is the coin of the day, that we live in a dualistic word. So other thinkers and activists agreed. Feminist theologian Rosemary Ruther says that the foundation of patriarchy, another topic we aren't really going to, but the foundation of patriarchy is dualism. Thich Nhat Hanh declared that if Christianity can recover its non-dualistic tradition, the gems and the treasures it holds could come alive again. So we have a Buddhist monk telling us that if we can live in a world of oneness, of non-duality, then the things that the Bible has taught us in terms of loving one another can become true. Julian of Norwich, a saint, defines mysticism as the recognition of oneness. So when we actually live in this space of knowing that we are one, the joggers running past outside, the dog that's running with them, the tree that is growing across the street, the earth, the rivers, the waters. We are one organism. We are life on planet Earth. We are one. Meister Eckhart calls God the one and calls us to separate ourselves from all twoness. That's mysticism. His term for wanting is that it is a mystical experience and it is a breakthrough. When we learn that we are one with all that is. So from a metaphysical point of view, from a physical point of view, we are one. And then there's a part of me that went straight to, I came upon a child of God. They were walking along the road. I asked him, where are you going? He told me this. I'm going down to Yasgur's farm to join a rock and roll band. I'm going to camp out on the land. I'm going to try and get my soul free. We are stardust. We are golden. And we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. Profound theologian, Joni Mitchell, Woodstock, old hippies, understood at some level that we are all one. Now you can hear the words, you can nod with me or look at me like, that lady's out of her mind, pick one, both are okay. And yet, until that becomes your realization at a cellular level, it just becomes words. It just becomes, that's God calling. It just becomes something that you hear on a Sunday morning that is essentially meaningless. So we want to know that we are experiencing, practicing, and fulfilling not exactly our grandmother's dream, but we are fulfilling the vision that our founder, Charles Fillmore, co-founder, he and Myrtle, his wife, founded Unity back in the 1887. And we have been practicing this ever since. So think about 1887 for a moment with me. Not a lot of roads connecting us across the United States. No electricity. No running water in your house. Horses, buggies. Think about that world, which we primarily identify, quote, as cowboys and Indians. And by the way, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were in Pueblo, Colorado, and he was part of a mining operation that was up in the mountains. And Charles Fillmore was a cripple. He was born a perfectly normal little boy in the Dakota Territories. However, he was in an accident. He was thrown from a horse and broke his leg, and not having proper medical care, his one leg did not develop properly, and it was shorter than the other. He wore a club shoe under one foot, approximately 4 to 5 inches, so that he could walk, and he walked with a profound limp. His wife, Myrtle, came from Ohio, went to Oberlin College, was 14 years older than Charles. Write that down, ladies. And she came from a family that was tubercular. And she moved out to Colorado, as people did back in the day, because the dry air was better for tubercular lungs. So not exactly Barbie and Ken, these two, even the Barbie and Ken of the 1880s when they met. So we have these two people, just plain old people. Charles Fillmore only spent a couple of years in a traditional school because of the times, but he was a self-educated man. Myrtle, on the other hand, graduated from the Feminine Institute at Oberlin College in Ohio. And these two individuals founded a denomination that's still here today. They were not the theologians of Europe. They were not part of big organized denominations at the time. And yet they are teaching mysticism. So Charles Fillmore put together over time a book called Revealing Word. And having grown up Southern Baptist, this was a really important book to me because I had a lot of meanings for words that Unity didn't use. So, if you look at this, it's kind of like a dictionary. It lists pretty much a Christian word or a Christian concept and gives you a mystical or a oneness definition for that word. Now, I'm a minister. This is the deluxe edition of Revealing Word. You don't even need to buy the book. It's now available at truthunity.net. You can go there, look up any words you want, find all of Charles Fillmore's books. You can just read them online. You don't have to buy the books. They are in public domain. But, so into this world, these are the kinds of things that Charles Fillmore had to say about oneness. First, he talks about omniscience. Do you know what omniscience means? Omniscience means everywhere present, all at once. So, God is mind, consciousness. So each of us have consciousness. We create a collective consciousness, and the consciousness that we create contributes to the evolution of this world. So there's unique consciousness, yours. There is collective consciousness, what we are creating together in this world. So God is mind, and that one mind contains all, and all ideas exist in the one mind. God is everywhere present. We all know that that God is not the dude with the long white hair and the nightgown. Not that God. The energy of the universe is everywhere present. Present in you, present in me, at all times. We can't go anywhere that we aren't present to it. And part of that is the consciousness that is the divine. God is in all, through and all around. Omnipresence is a spiritual realm that can be penetrated only through the most highly accelerated mind action, as in prayer. So what has to happen is we turn our thoughts, our egoic mind, turn our thoughts to the divine, and we're in contact instantly. Here, on 25, on 70, in the mountains, in the city, in the suburbs. God is everywhere present. God is one life and one intelligence. Again, we can tap into that one mind, one intelligence, one principle of life, love, intelligence, and goodness in and through all over. one mind. There is but one mind. Every individual and the various phrases of that character make that in the individual, are but states of consciousness in the one mind. One presence, one power. That's what we say now that's in, he didn't sit down and write the foundation principle. Leaders who came after him derived it from what he was teaching. But we say that every morning. So we are affirming oneness or non-duality every Sunday morning. So I find it fascinating that I booked a ticket for my granddaughter and I to see To Kill a Mockingbird last night months ago. You guys know what it's like to go to the Buell Theater. You don't just say, I think I'll go. So I booked that months ago, not paying any attention to the fact I was going to be out of town all weekend up to here. But we got there, we went out to dinner, and we went. And I'm guessing that most of you read To Kill a Mockingbird in an English class at one point in time or another. But if you haven't looked at it for a while, you might reconsider. Richard Thomas, John Boy from the Waltons, if you're old enough to remember that, what is Atticus Finch. In a powerful performance of how a really good man can screw up. Really. And how his son and his daughter have qualities that are missing in him because of his perceived attachment to one form of goodness. It's amazing. I had forgotten, even though I've taught that book as an English teacher, I had forgotten that at the end, the main villain in the story, quote, falls on his knife, falls forward on his knife, and dies. Now, is that what we would call divine order? Is that duality because there is good and this character? How do we resolve those differences? How do we personally resolve the differences that we see exist in this world today? I don't know if any of you are of Ukrainian heritage. In my condominium community, there are many blue and yellow flags. And as I've had, passing conversations with those people, I know that they weren't born in this country either. How do we resolve Russia and the Ukraine when we say we're all one? Does that create the tension in you that it creates in me? We want a bad guy. We want a bad guy that we can make wrong. And we have a list of what's wrong with our bad guy. And yet, at another place on the globe, there are people who have a list of what's right about this guy and what's wrong about the other guy. That looks to me like duality. How can we teach, unity, teach that there is only oneness when all of us can see the opposite? It's really not a rhetorical question. It's a question that I invite you to linger in as you go about your life. depending on your grandmother's leanings, you know, when we hear that song, we think, my ancestors who were holding the very best for me. As a grandmother, I look at my baby grandsons, and I want to see them in a world of love and peace and acceptance. Is that going to happen? Only if our consciousness creates it. And in order for our consciousness to create it, we have to wrestle with what appears to be duality. We can't pretend it doesn't exist. We can't go around with our head in the sand. And wherever we grew up in that environment. And I grew up in Ohio, in the Midwest, with a father who was a career Army officer, a father who fought in the Second World War, who was a medic in the First World War in the trenches in the Argonne Forest, ugly place to be. And my father was born in 1891, go back a few generations, but that's who my father was. And he was also in the Mexican border war when the United States was fighting against Pancho Villa. There was not a liberal bone in my father's body. I was raised in an environment that was absolutely, my country right or wrong, was absolutely, the country was ruined by going off the gold standard. That's all part of my consciousness. Our journey is to figure out what impacts us that we aren't even aware of. What do we hear in our mind's eye, in our head, that we heard when we were littler than Kathy? How do we judge or choose, let's say choose, not judge, how do we choose whether we are impacted by our grandmother's anyway, or by the conscious decisions we have chosen as spiritual adults? We're faced with that all the time. So no matter where you grew up with a particular set of beliefs that are practically part of your DNA. And they may not be the ones you consciously choose today, but we have to look for the places that they slither in and impact us today. That's the work of the rest of our life. I can't tell you how surprised I am frequently by this passing judgmental thought about somebody else. My kids would tell you that over the years, I really thought that every man should wear khaki pants and a polo shirt. And if you weren't appropriately attired, I don't know if I should really be talking to you. Now, do you think I'm proud of that thought? No. But yet that was part of my upbringing, which was not part of your upbringing. What do we have to think about? What do we have to consider? One of my favorite Broadway shows when I was younger was Godspell. And one of my favorite songs in that is "You Are the Light of the World," which comes from Matthew 5:14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do you light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand. And on that lampstand it gives light to all who are in the house. Verse 16, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works, which glorify your Father in heaven, the divine consciousness. You're the light of the world. Perfect as you are, with an opportunity to become more perfect. And it's pesky. It's a pesky standard to live up to. And it's a standard that sometimes I fail. We're all fragile, flawed human beings, and yet we are the light of the world. Jesus is often said to be the light of the world, and yet the scripture that they quote him saying is that not him, but you are the light of the world. Our calling leaves no one out. I invite you to simply breathe. And as we breathe, you listen to our heat coming into the room. You hear the rustle of other human beings in this sanctuary. And as you continue to watch your breath, it takes you in and down. Into your own divine beingness. And it takes you up and out into the spaciousness of the universe. As scientists continue to go through the universe back to the Big Bang, we know that we are a part of it all. The sacredness of our Mother Earth, the expansiveness of the universe, reaching beyond all time and thought. And here we stand, fragile, beautiful human beings. Learning to live with each other. Learning to see the oneness of all life. Learning to see the divine in those who are most unlike us. One presence. One power. That goes by the name that we call God, but which could also be called Allah, could also be called Divine Mother. We come to celebrate, to experience joy, to experience love and human connections of all kinds. And we celebrate, totally celebrate, each aspect of our lives. The painful parts that we have lived through that have taught us so very much. The joyous, loving parts that are so very special to each of us. This is life. We chose it, we came here, and we are grateful for this opportunity to learn and grow together. So taking another breath, we pause together for a few moments in the stillness. Life is a journey. We have the power of choice. Who do we choose to journey with? Last week we talked about who's your wingman. And Unity on the Avenue is here to be your wingman. Our chaplains will pray with you. We will see the truth and wholeness in your life. And we will support you through the parts that are painful. And we are delighted to do so. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
Sing with me. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We are one now. We are one now, 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 we are one now.
So, most of you are supportive on a monthly basis with all kinds of automatic giving devices. Those of you who are not, we accept that old-fashioned stuff called money and checks, and we also have a square in the back and would be delighted to take any gift you choose to give us with your credit card. You can get in line behind me. Yeah, come on in, Kathy. They moved on you. So we bless and we multiply all of those gifts as together we share our offertory blessing. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And we bless that ambulance that just went past.
The song that I'm going to do next, speaking of collective energy and wanting some things to be a little bit different. This particular song was done by a somewhat new artist, Allison Russell. And it is done with Brandy Carlisle, yes. So the two of them are doing it together, and the original video is actually filmed at Red Rock, so it's a cool watch. Hey, my little evening star, how bright you are. Anywhere you go, you're not alone. Rocks and bugs and angel wings, every little shiny thing. Anywhere go, you're not alone. You're the North Star and the compass, always finding something wondrous. Anywhere you go, you're not alone. Here's where the cello solo is. Wish that I could keep you from sorrow and harm. None of us are here too long, but you're not alone. Sparrows in the morning, crows at dusk, singing with your mama, you're not alone. We have love, we have love, we have love, you're not alone. Hey, my little evening star, how bright you are. We have love, 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 you're not alone. Remember, you're not alone. You're not alone ever. You're not alone, little Kathy.
Kathy, do you want to come up here and have everyone bless you? Would you like to come and stand with me? Do you want to come up here? You don't have to. But if you'd like to come, I would like to invite you. Yes, you come, atta girl. Yay, Kathy. Awesome. Come on up. Yeah. Here, turn around. Look at all those people. They're going to say, yay, Kathy. No? That was too much? You want me to sit in the chair? No. Okay. Thanks for coming. We're going to bless you. We love, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you are loved, special, and important. We see you and bless the divine being that you are. Yay, Kathy. I think no means yes. Perfect. We love you doing it. All right. How about if you stand and join in the prayer for protection? The light of God surrounds us. I am that light. The love of God enfolds us. I am that love. The power of God protects us. I am that power. The presence of God watches over us. I am that presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Good job. Thank you.